Hello and welcome back to Gaming 720 on the gaming team. Today we're going to be doing a new video called 14 Doctors Ranked. And there is only 14 Doctors. A few of you may be thinking, hold on a minute, isn't Jodie Whittaker the 13th? This is including the War Doctor, so yeah, that happens. Although I say it's 14 Doctors, we are technically ranking 15 Doctors, which we'll get to in a second. So yeah, let's move right on to that. So at number 15 we have My Doctor. And when I say My Doctor, I mean my audio series Doctor. And I mean, to be completely fair, we've only seen 1.5 stories of this Doctor. We saw that first story, the Electric Colony, which was awful, and I know that, and I would want to redo that one. And then we got the episode 2 prologue, which I have like 2 lines in it, for like 10 seconds. So yeah, that really isn't much. And I do kind of want episode 2 to release soon, but there are complications. There are definitely a few complications along the way. But the thing is, next weekend we do have a kind of audio. We do have something audio with My Doctor coming, and it's not episode 2. Ooh, surprise! Yes, it's a surprise video. I've been thinking about doing this kind of thing for a little while. It'll be a lot easier to make than the main episodes, so these will be kind of like just things I can do if I'm having a problem making episodes and stuff. So yeah, that's it. Anyway, moving on. That is number 15, and we're going to move down to 14. So at number 14 we have the 13th Doctor. Now, let's be fair. There is no Doctor that I hate. There's no Doctor that I dislike anymore. Just, if you'd asked me my list a couple of months ago, the 5th Doctor would have been at the bottom of this list. He is no longer at the bottom of this list, because I watched his era and I actually loved it. Well, I liked some of it. But his last story is when he truly went up a few ranks for me. So yeah, but I don't think, we haven't seen enough of 13 yet. We know her era isn't over. We know we're going to get some more stories, and Series 11 was not great. It was okay. It was watchable, but it was not much more than that. But I do like her Doctor, and I'm pretty sure the writing will get better. Because, I mean, look at Chris Chibnall for Series 1 of Torchwood and then Series 2 of Torchwood. I mean, that is, like, definitive proof that he gets better. It's obvious he gets better. So, yeah, I'm going to take that as a positive for Torchwood. So, yeah, Series 12, I think, will be better. And hopefully, Jodie Whittaker can jump up a few ranks, and it's not because she's not at the bottom because I hate the idea of a female Doctor, or females are not supposed to be doctors or whatever. I mean, that's not true. Time Lords have been seen to become doctors. So yeah, little kind of rant there. Let's move on to number 13. So yeah, at number 13 we have the War Doctor, and I really hate putting him second bottom, but John Hurt was fantastic in Day of the Doctor. He really, really was, but he just hasn't had enough, screen time. Just one episode isn't enough. But he does have some audio stories, and I do intend to listen to those because I want more from this Doctor. And I know it's probably not going to happen unless someone can do a really good John Hurt impression. Even then, it probably won't happen for a few years. But there's not a whole lot you can say. I like his TARDIS because it's got a nice, crossover between classic and new style TARDIS, and Sonic is cross between classic and new. For me, he's the bridge between classic and new. And that's okay, that's great, I love that, but I wish he'd had more time, and I wish his audio stories had become like a mini-series or something. You know what? If he hadn't died, I would have wished that instead of Class, we got this. We got War Doctor story, a War Doctor series. Just one series with the War Doctor. That, I would love that, because then we'd get more time with him. It wouldn't be part of the main show. Class happened during the year that Stephen Moffat decided to take a break. So yeah, he could have put it there instead of Class. But unfortunately, John Hurt died. Can't remember when it was, and I can't remember when Class exactly released, but I don't think he would have been around when Class was around, or it wouldn't be long before. But that would have been, I would put that over Class. Even if the stories weren't great. Just something like that. I also kind of want the same with the 8th Doctor, but I'll get around to that eventually. So yeah, moving on to number 12. So at number 12, we have the 6th Doctor. And this is an underrated Doctor. And I know what you might be thinking, wait a second, you've got him near the end of your list and you're calling him underrated. Lots of people look at this Doctor in a bad way. Because in this first story, he strangled Perry, his companion, in the Twin Dilemma. And lots of people think, oh, he's a bad Doctor just because he strangled his companion. And no, he went through a traumatic regeneration. It is explained, but I don't think it's explained really well, and people don't seem to remember that. But anyway, season 22 overall was pretty good. Well, it was okay, but season 23 is where Colin really shines. His acting is much better in 23. He's nicer to his companions, in my opinion. He's definitely nicer to Perry in this season than he was in 22. And he does genuinely seem to care about her a lot more here. Especially in that spoiler episode, when that spoiler thing happens to Perry. He does seem genuinely concerned about that. Anyway, and his speech at the end, that was really great. I haven't listened to his Big Finish audios. I've only listened to like the free ones. I haven't listened to anything like, big, any full stories, so to speak. So I've heard he's great in there, in the Big Finish one. So if I ever did listen to lots more Big Finish, he might end up going up. But for now, he's happy at number 12, and it's not because he's a bad Doctor, it's because I don't think he has a relatively great era. And it is unfortunate he did get fired from the BBC. And I would like to have seen how he would have reacted with another series. But I mean, season 24 didn't have great stories anyway with the 7th Doctor, so the stories would have probably been the same, but I don't know. Anyway, moving on to number 11. So yeah, at number 11 we have the 7th Doctor, and originally he was a bit higher up, only a few places, but he was higher up, and he's gone down, and it's not because I like the Doctor any less than I did now. I think I probably like him more because I went through the entirety of his era as well, and he's a really great Doctor. I love his relationship with Ace. The reason why he ends up regenerating is a little weird and a bit off, because he just got, stepped out the TARDIS and got shot. Spoiler alert, by the way, sorry. Yeah, it's not too much of a spoiler. So So yeah, he's a great Doctor, but the only reason he's moved down the list is because other things have moved up the list. And you'll definitely see that with the next one. So yeah, overall, Sylvester McCoy is a wonderful, wonderful man. Actually, all the Doctors are wonderful, wonderful people. But the 7th Doctor, he's great. He's got a really nice charm to him. He's friendly, he's funny. He's a great Doctor. Anyway, yeah, moving on. So yeah, we are now getting into the top 10 Doctors, which doesn't matter a whole lot that much, but at number 10, we have the 5th Doctor. And he was originally at the bottom of my list. This was a few months ago, when I've made my first list. I've made like 4 or 5 since then. But yeah, he's gone up above 5, above 6 and 7, and that's mainly because of his last story was really that good. It was his last story is what elevated him, 4 places, 5 if you include my Doctor. He's gone up quite a lot, considering one story. I did enjoy his era. I think his best series was season 19, in my opinion. Although he was, him himself was better in 21. My favourite of his stories is Caves of Androzani. I probably should have done the favourite stories thing for the other Doctors, but whatever. I'll start doing it now. My second favourite would be Black Orchid. I don't know how many other people share that opinion, but I really love that episode. He's got a nice charm. For the first 2 seasons, his charm was very meh, but his worst season is definitely 20. I wasn't a fan of a whole lot of the stories in there. He was great in the 20th anniversary, but yeah, still, great Doctor. Moving on. So, at number 9, we have the 8th Doctor. And I'm probably going to get a lot of, but wait a second, you put Jodie Whittaker and John Hurt at the bottom because they don't have enough stories and stuff like that. But he only has a movie and a mini episode, and you're putting him at number 9. He's a great Doctor, he really is. In the TV movie, which is an okay movie, a bit underrated, the movie actually, he was really wonderful in that. He was even better in the minisode, Night of the Doctor. That was amazing, and I watched that decently regularly because it's fantastic. He definitely needs more, and he can actually have him because Paul McGann hasn't aged in like 10 years. I think he could still pull off a TV show, or come back for the 60th. Somebody please make that happen. I would die for that. He's not my favourite Doctor, but I love him. I think his best story that on TV is Night of the Doctor. It's not like I've got a whole lot to choose from. So yeah, great Doctor overall. He's got a really nice energy to him. I like his dress sense. Still not my favourite dress sense. Probably should have talked about the dress senses a bit more as well. Yeah, I think he's a good Doctor who needs more. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. So at number 8 we have the first Doctor, and originally he was the lower end of this list, but I realised, there's one thing you've got to do if you're a fan of the show, is you've got to appreciate how good William Hartnell's Doctor must have been for the show to have continued for that long, because if he hadn't had, the best that he could have done, the show might not still be around. That's one thing about it. Another thing that you've got to appreciate is how much he loved the role, and an adventure in space and time, which is brilliant. I love it so much. I watched that not too long ago for the first time, and that put his Doctor in a new perspective for me, because usually everyone sees it as he's just a grumpy old man that played him at the beginning. But then you look past and how much this role actually properly changed his life and, in a way, put him on the map. I mean, he was in a lot of roles before that, but this one is the one that is probably remembered for the most, and that you got to appreciate his Doctor. Also, David Bradley does a really good job as playing him. I just don't think the writing in Twice Upon a Time for First Doctor was amazing. He was just a bit more rude than how he was supposed to be. But I think David Bradley did a fantastic job, and I also plan on listening to the First Doctor adventures that are have David Bradley in, because I listened to one of the free parts for that, and that sounded great. So yeah, that's on my listen to list. And he's the Doctor you've got to appreciate. I've said that a few times now, so yeah, I'm just gonna move. Oh wait, favourite story. Nearly forgot to do that. I haven't seen that many episodes in his eras, so I'm going to say the Daleks, just because the iconic villains. Once I've watched as much of his era as possible, excluding the missing episodes, of course, I will give my favourite story for him. Moving on. So yeah, at number 7, we have the 9th Doctor, and we're gonna get the same kind of thing we've had before. He's a great Doctor. He should have had more time, and they did have a perfect way that Doctor Who should have started up again. That would have included Paul McGann and Christopher Eccleston, but whatever. I just love Christopher Eccleston. Between one of my friends, he's a bit of a meme with his Heaton Park speech. I watched a lot of his era again the last couple of months, and he really does put all his effort in to it, and that's wonderful, especially since he already knew he wanted to regenerate within the first block of shooting. So even after that, he still put all of his effort in throughout the entire series. It's not like, I want to leave, so I'm just gonna, be too lazy with this. He did genuinely put loads and loads of effort into that role, and he was the perfect way to bring it back. The show, along with the Time War. The Time War works perfectly as a way of where has the Doctor been recently. And the 9th Doctor really does have that kind of PTSD style to him that just works so well with his stories, especially the Dalek and the Parting of the Ways and Bad Wolf and Rose, even, because that is an open story. He also reacts with Rose really well. Rose and him are one of the best companion duos, whereas Rose and Ten is one of the worst. But I'll get to that in a minute. I wish he'd had a Christmas special. I wish he'd regenerated in that. Maybe like I probably wouldn't have worked, but like a Twice Upon a Time thing where the Doctor holds back his regeneration and then regenerates in the special instead. I would have liked to have seen that. Maybe it would have been a Rose-like episode, where she's still unconscious on the TARDIS after taking the time vortex out of her head, she's still unconscious in TARDIS. The Doctor lands somewhere and he walks out. Maybe we could have even had a Captain Jack in this, and this would have been where he would have left off instead. That could have been a much better story. It could have also been worse, but for now, his one series is one of the best series. I think it's my third favourite. Yeah, I think... No, it's my fourth favourite series in New Who. I do want him to return in some way. He could return the 60th. Christopher Eccleston does look a bit older, but, they can just use that same time stream thing that they had in Time Crash, where he's older because he's with an older Doctor, kind of thing. But also Big Finish. I'd love him to return in Big Finish. I would straight up buy that audio series. Because he is a great Doctor and we need to see more of him. Although, if they did do Big Finish, I'd like to see some Rose Light episodes. Because I'd like to see how the Doctor reacts to things on its own. Because I feel every Doctor has to have a story where they're on their own. And, yeah, I know not every Doctor has had that, but it's nice because then if we've got a Doctor that can be quite brutal and only gets calmed down by a companion, to see an episode without that companion can be really good. We could either get some nice character development, or we could see that Doctor at his worst. And I don't mean episode quality, I mean quite literally personality-wise. That would be interesting to see. Anyway, moving on, because favourite story. I've got to give it to Parting of the Ways, Bad Wolf. I know I'm saying that in the wrong order, just, ignore me. Because we've already had Dalek, which is amazing, but then we get this, which is amazing. Anyway, moving on. Now, this one, I didn't expect this one to have gone down so much. He is the one Doctor that I like less over the last few months. He's still really, really great, but he's gone down a bit. The 10th Doctor. Overall, Series 3 and Series 4 are great. I love him in those, but Series 2 is quite bad. That is the worst New Who season, in my opinion. Him and Rose is just a bad duo. It's just the way they went with the love story kind of thing just didn't work for me. Some people do like Series 2, but it's not really that great in my opinion. But Tennant does give it his all in every story. I do think he's a little overrated just because he was around for the longest in Modern Who. There's not a whole lot I can say, because for me, I feel like he's just sort of Christopher Eccleston, but with a bit more character development. I feel like Series 2 especially was planned out by Russell T Davies before. I reckon he had Series 1 and 2 already planned out, and they were going to both feature Christopher Eccleston. But then that didn't happen, and Christopher Eccleston left. And I think Christopher Eccleston could have worked in some of those stories a bit better. But, I'll leave it, it's fine. He's a great Doctor, he really loves the role, and that's important. The only reason he's gone down is I'm starting to see more flaws in his episodes, because I watched his episodes as a child, so I loved all of them. There are definitely flaws, and I've just seen some other better Doctors of late. That is number 6. Moving on to number 5. So, at number 5, we have the 2nd Doctor. This was surprising. A few months ago, he was on the lower end of the list. But all of a sudden he's in place number 5. Now, I have seen some of his stories. I've seen Power of the Daleks, a part of the Macro Terror, Tomb of the Cybermen, Mind Robber, and Enemy of the World. All of those are great. I love them all. His Doctor really, really is great. Especially for what he must have been going through, because William Hartnell's Doctor was really popular at the time, and just to come in and just change what it means to be the Doctor, to be someone completely different, but to do it in such elegance, like it was easy. It can't have been easy, but he makes it look easy. That's great. He's a really, really good Doctor, and he should never be underappreciated. In fact, no Doctor should be underappreciated. I think every Doctor has something to appreciate about them. Whether that be that they're unique, or they've got some really great stories, or something, something like that. Or they brought back the show in 2005. That kind of thing. So, yeah, just a fantastic Doctor overall. I do want to watch some more of his stories, but I'm trying to get through the 4th Doctor's era now, and I'll move on to 3s, then 2s, and I'll finish off with the 1st Doctor, which I thought was appropriate. I felt like his Doctor should be the last one I watch. So yeah, moving on to number 4. So yeah, at number 4 we have the 4th Doctor, and he has gone down this list. I think he was number 3 last time. Number 4 last time was the 10th Doctor, and number 5 was the 3rd Doctor. So yeah, there's definitely been some changes in this bit here, especially. So yeah, I've started his era. I haven't finished it yet. I finished the majority of what I believe is known as the best part of his era. And yeah, he's a little bit overrated. He's still a great Doctor. I think a lot of people have him there as their favourite because he was around the longest. He's still a great Doctor. He puts he puts effort in. Majority of his stories are great. I think Seeds of Doom is a bit meh. I look at a lot of reviews and everyone says it's like a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10. I personally would have had it like a 7 out of 10. I didn't think the back half of that story was great. Although I do say it quite often, I'm not a fan of 6-part stories. I don't have the attention span for that. So God help me when I get to the War Games. So yeah, he is a bit overrated, but he is still at number 4, so he's still a great Doctor. Moving on to number 3. So at number 4 we have the 4th Doctor, and number 3 we have the 3rd Doctor. Don't think there's a link there at all. But anyway, surprisingly, this is my 3rd favourite Doctor. That's not the surprising bit. The surprising bit is actually he's the Doctor I've seen the least of. And you're probably thinking, what? This is the Doctor you've seen the least of? And he's in your 3rd favourite spot? I've seen a lot of clips on the internet, and he is a really good Doctor. I really love his era. He's got, I think, some of the best stories. In general, he's got a really, really consistent era, story-wise. Like, majority of them are good, at least. also, I like the vibe he brings, that James Bond style kind of bit, you know, the fencing, the more combat and physical Doctor. That I really like that, and I think my love for John Pertwee is affected a lot by my love for Sean Pertwee, because I love Sean Pertwee on Gotham, and I picked up the Doctor Who magazine thing based on the Third Doctor, and I read what Sean Pertwee was saying and stuff, and I love Sean Pertwee, and I think that connection between Sean and John helps build my love for 3 a lot. So yeah, he's a really, really good Doctor, and I love him. So yeah, moving on to the final 2 now, with number 2. So, in second place, we have the 12th Doctor, and I love his Doctor. I love Peter Capaldi. I always say it, but if there's one Doctor, one of the actors of the Doctors I could meet, in person, it would be Peter Capaldi. I love him. He's a brilliant actor. He's perfect. His Doctor is he grows on you, Doctor. You don't love him at the beginning. In fact, you don't love him in his second series. You love him, you may start loving him in his third series. You may not even love him then. But you'll get to the end of his era, you'll think of it all over again, and you'll think, actually, that was great. That's what happened to me anyway. I always watched Doctor Who, and I always loved Doctor Who, but by the time he got around to his era, by the end of his era, I mean, that's when I loved him. And then watching back, I loved him a lot more. And Moffat did write him amazing. Both of his companions were done well. Well, more than 2. But Clara and Bill are great. I loved them in this. Clara is okay with 11, but she is a lot better with 12. In my opinion, some people like it the other way around. Bill though is great. He has a nice comic relationship with Nardole. Majority of his stories are either decent or good. There are some bad ones in there, but Capaldi's acting shines in every single one of them. He also has some of the best speeches. He's just a great Doctor overall, and that's that. He really does put his heart in it. He also loves the role. Also, his outfits are really great. I think his velvet outfit is certainly his best, and I love it. And that is one of the ones I would be tempted to actually wear. So yeah, moving on to number 1. So, at number 1, we have the 11th Doctor. So let's just think for a second. I was 8 when his Doctor first aired on TV. That's around about the age in which a child starts properly remembering memories, retaining the memories. So that is one thing. I remember watching Tennant's era, I just don't have the proper memories of it. And I know I did watch them, but like I said, I don't have the proper memories. His personality as the Doctor fits me the most. I love his whole vibe and style. He may not have had the best episodes near the end of his run, but I still love his Doctor, and he is the best Doctor, in my opinion. There is no taking away from that. I do wish he'd had more stories, and I do hope Matt Smith does do Big Finish one day. And I don't know whether it's something to do with Moffat, because my top two doctors are both Moffat doctors. Especially since I think Moffat is a fantastic writer at his best. At his worst, he's terrible. And he does vary quite a bit. But as a showrunner, he did a pretty decent job. So yeah, what are your favourite doctors? Please tell me why. Maybe you haven't got a favourite doctor. Maybe you just love all of them. Like I said, I do love all of them. I just have, I do have a specific order in which I do like them. So yeah, next week there will be an audio thing coming out, and it's not episode 2. I've mentioned this before, but yeah, that will be coming out Saturday, Sunday-ish. Probably about midday. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you all soon.